uh, the statutes that are on the books now are vague, and otherwise Congress hasn't criminalized that. So I think what you have is the case comes down to, can he prove that Trump believed the things that he was saying, notwithstanding all the evidence to the contrary. But even if he could get over that hurdle, which I think is daunting, I do think that you have the problem that he has extravagantly stretched these statutes in order to try to capture this behavior. And that's because this is really a proxy for what should have been a political impeachment process. They're leaving to the criminal justice system the failure of Congress to carry out a successful impeachment.
So that's Andy McCarthy last night. And that, I think he is exactly, I totally agree with him on this, because that I was reading the indictment before he was weighing in on it. And then literally after I got through the bottom of page 6 and 7, where that's like, I think the biggest thing for me. And I don't think I'm speaking by myself either on this. He said, it was just serendipitous. He said what he said. Welcome back to the program. Bottom of this first hour, Dana Loesch with you. So specifically, and there's, we have a piece that's going to be up on some of these, on the charges, that'll be up within this hour. But right now I want to focus on the bottom of page 6 and 7 of this indictment, because here's how you might think, okay, this is like, I'm so tired of hearing about it, Dana. I'm so tired of hearing about the indictment. It's the third one. Yeah, okay, here's why you need to, though. Here's why you need to care. Because this is a free speech issue. This goes beyond the regular, we're going to argue over election statutes, all of this stuff. This goes beyond that. So you heard what Andy just said there. Andy was saying that what ultimately Jack Smith is going to have to do is to prove in court that Trump didn't believe that there was election fraud. Now, I've been real clear with everybody on stuff. Like I thought, for instance, Hillary Clinton was moronic to say that the election was stolen from her. Do I want people criminally penalized for that? Hell no. I am an absolute free speech purist to an irritating degree. You cannot start weaponizing stuff like this. That's insane. That's insane. She was wrong and there was no evidence. But is it criminal? No. I mean, if you're going to go after Trump for it, then what? You know what I mean? This is so insane. They don't have an incitement charge, so they're trying to stretch and argue that he was lying, and therefore that contributed to some sort of beginning of a riot, or that fueled the riot, because they can't technically say that he incited. That's not part of any of the charges. That's what's insane. I want you to listen to Jonathan Turley on this. This is audio soundbite 6, because he says he agrees this is all a part of the First Amendment. Listen to this.
The most jarring thing about this indictment is that it basically just accuses him of disinformation. This is a disinformation indictment. It says that you were spreading falsehoods, that you were undermining the integrity of the election. That's all part of the First Amendment, and I think that courts will look skeptically. He might have a fair shot with a D.C. jury and maybe a D.C. judge. He's going to have a harder time with the courts.
Say that's the problem, the D.C. jury and the D.C. court. Because here's how it affects you. What if you're one of those individuals who believe that the election was stolen? Now, for instance, I believe that absolutely there's election fraud. I was telling Kane I had to actually fight to get someone who is illegally registered to vote at my address to get them removed. So I'm not going to be lectured to about election fraud, because that was a pain in the ass to do. And that was just one individual. And I think it was probably somebody's stolen identity. I don't even know if there's going to be any repercussions for that, like any criminal consequences. Who knows? But it absolutely does exist. At what degree is what you call into question. And then if it's centralized enough, because everything is so decentralized purposefully to prevent that very thing. Our founders were incredibly insightful. Now, whether or not you agree with it, whether it was stolen, nationally, or whether that's something that I have to have evidence. I'm not saying that I would disregard evidence. I don't disregard evidence, but I would need enough evidence to say that. But there are people who believe it. That's not criminal. That's not a criminal thing to believe it. It's not a criminal thing to talk about it. And it's not criminal for the former president to think it. It's not criminal for the former president to talk about it. So he actually would have to walk into court and prove that he didn't believe that. Now, what kind of repercussions does that mean for you? If they can go after someone who used to live in the White House for quote unquote disinformation, folks, what do you think they're going to do to you? You think that this would not be a weaponized precedent? Now, you might say, yeah, but Dana, that would get overturned. I mean, even, the whole, what was it? The Schenck case. And that was the ridiculous shouting fire in a crowded theater. That was a dictum that was actually that Oliver Wendell Holmes had written, but didn't actually include in the legal opinion. That's an aside. But, 60 years later, that whole case was overturned. You could say, yeah, but Dana, it could be overturned. Okay, that took 60 years. What are you going to do in the meantime? You see what I'm saying? You go through that legal purgatory. Who knows how long that lasts? Like the legal purgatory you're having to wade through right now with ATF and pistol braces, or the legal purgatory that you had to wade through while you waited for the courts to act on the CDC and rent moratoriums. I mean, that legal purgatory where you're technically a criminal, but technically not. See what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It's that time period. It is an absolute affront to the First Amendment. That's infuriating that there are not. I'm just livid at the lack of concern over that. That's one of the biggest things to me. Now, they had 5 co-conspirators in this as well, because they're talking about this indictment. 5 co-conspirators in this, what should have been, as McCarthy said, an actual impeachment case, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So they're having to do this. This is the best way that they could try to do it. So insane. So this the 5 co-conspirators. Let's pull this up. And the 4 counts related to January 6th and supposed attempts to overturn the election. The most serious one for legal ramifications, that has to do with the location in D.C. Now, if you had to guess how, say, give me a percentage out of 100 of what you think the political makeup of a DC jury pool would be. Kane, let me go ahead and just give me a guess. Give me a guess.
Like 95%.
Oh, yeah.
Democrat?
Yeah, you're actually right. It's actually 96%, but you're just right. You're spot on. So you have a jury pool that is predominantly is not even strong enough of a word, registered, not likely voters that are Democrat, but registered Democrats. The judge, Tanya Shukin, is, clearly, she's going to be a barrel of laughs. This judge that was assigned to the case, Obama appointee, the only federal judge in D.C. who sentenced all of the January 6th defendants, and not even just the ones who were actually rioting and deserved tough sentences, but the ones that weren't. All of them were given higher sentences than recommended by the government. She handled 31 of those cases. Every one of them got sentences higher than was recommended by the government. Now, to compare that, Red State had a piece back, this is a year ago, where they looked at the January 6th defendants, and 80% of those defendants got sentences that were below government recommendations. So she actually went at a way higher rate, way harder than all the other judges. So I think that's kind of indicative. The Associated Press in 2022 labeled her the toughest punisher. Now, there's this comes, let me pull this up. I saw this, so this comes from Daily Caller. Trump's D.C. judge, so the judge in this case, worked for Boies, Schiller, and Flexner, LLP. Interesting. Have we heard that before? Don't Google it, Kane. I was about to. Okay, Google it. Go ahead and Google it. Boies, Schiller, and Flexner, LLP. Where have we heard that from that before, that law firm? Because she worked there. That's the D.C. judge. Yeah. Are you looking at it, Kane?
Yeah, I just went to the website.
Uh-huh. So, do you know who else used to be employed by that law firm?
No, who?
I'll give you one guess. His name rhymes with Schmunter Biden.
Is it Hunter Biden?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And wait, there's more. With the purchase of one Burisma partner, you get 2 Burisma partners. Heather King, who is also a Burisma partner and worked alongside Hunter Biden, also there. I'm just saying. Now, I'm not saying that there's shenanigans. I'm just saying that this is illustrative of how lefty she is and how she's going to go after this case.